Frank Carter stood tall as the strange visitors walked around the bridge of his ship. They weren't human. Their skin shimmered like glass, and they moved with a grace that made them seem like they were floating. These were the Zeraxians, the first aliens humans had ever met face to face. Frank was an admiral in Earth's space fleet. For 20 years, he had worked his way up from a simple pilot to the leader of humanity's best ships. Today was supposed to be a proud day. Earth was joining something called the Galactic Concord, a group of 17 different alien species who worked together. But the Zeraxian named Vexilor wasn't looking impressed. He ran a long, thin finger across the control panel and made a sound like small bells ringing. His translator box turned this into words. "Such basic systems," Vexilor said. "Do you really still use physical buttons? How quaint." Lisa Wright bit her lip to keep from saying something rude. She was the chief engineer who had designed many of the systems on the UEF Endeavour, Earth's best diplomatic vessel. She had spent her life making Earth's ships better and faster. Hearing them called basic stung. "Our systems are reliable," she said carefully. "They've helped us build colonies on Mars and Europa." Vexilor made that bell sound again, which Lisa now realized was laughter. "You've reached 2 planets in your own system. The youngest species in the Concord have at least 20 systems under their control." Frank stepped in. "We only discovered faster than light travel 15 years ago. We're still learning." The 4 Zeraxians in the delegation looked at each other. Their crystal bodies caught the light from the ship's ceiling and threw tiny rainbows across the walls. "Show us your weapon systems," said another Zeraxian named Trelak. He seemed to be some kind of military advisor. Frank nodded to Lisa, who brought up the ship's specs on the main screen. The Endeavour carried 20 missile tubes, 10 laser cannons, and a thick metal hull reinforced with the strongest alloys Earth could make. Trelak studied the screen. "Ballistic weapons, actual projectiles, and chemical propellants?" He turned to Vexilor. "Ambassador, they're using technology that the Concord abandoned thousands of years ago." Vexilor nodded. "It seems our information was correct. Humans are indeed developing." The way he said the word made it sound like an insult. Frank kept his face blank, the way he had learned to do during tough negotiations back on Earth. "We're eager to learn from the Concord's advanced technology. And we are eager to teach," said Vexilor, though his tone suggested otherwise. "The Concord believes all sentient species deserve a chance to join galactic society no matter how—" He paused, searching for a word. "Primitive they might be." Lisa's hands curled into fists. Frank saw and gave her a small warning look. This meeting was too important to ruin with hurt feelings. The tour continued for another hour. The Zeraxians examined everything: the engines, the life support systems, even the food processors in the kitchen. Each time, they exchanged those bell-like laughs and spoke in their own language before their translator boxes caught up. Finally, they gathered in the meeting room. Vexilor placed a small crystal on the table. It glowed and projected a document in the air. "This is the agreement for Earth to join the Galactic Concord as a protected species," he said. "Protected?" Frank asked. "We weren't told about this status." Vexilor's body shimmered in what might have been a shrug. "After seeing your technology level, it's clear you need protection. The galaxy can be dangerous. Some species aren't as generous as the Concord." Lisa couldn't stay quiet anymore. "We've defended ourselves for thousands of years on Earth. We've survived wars, disasters, and our own worst mistakes. We don't need protection." Trelak made a dismissive gesture. "Against other humans, perhaps. But there are species who would see your planets as easy targets. Your weapons would be useless against their shields. Your ships would be destroyed before you even knew you were under attack." Frank put a calming hand on Lisa's shoulder. "We appreciate the Concord's concern. What exactly does protected status mean for Earth?" Vexilor touched the crystal, and the document scrolled to a new section. "You will be allowed to continue developing at your own pace. You'll receive basic diplomatic training. Some trade will be permitted, though no technology transfers that could be dangerous. And a small Concord outpost will be established in your system to monitor, that is, to protect you. And our fleet? Frank asked. Our 60 ships? You may keep them, of course, Vexler said with another bell laugh. They pose no threat to anyone but yourselves. When the meeting ended, the Zeraxians returned to their ship. Through the viewing window, Frank and Lisa watched it depart. It was beautiful, a spiral of crystal and light that seemed to bend space around itself as it moved. They think we're children, Lisa said when the aliens were gone. Stupid children playing with toys. Frank nodded slowly. Yes, they do. Our ships aren't toys, Lisa continued. We've put everything we have into building this fleet. Our best minds, our best materials. And they laughed at us. Frank turned away from the window. Get me a secure line to Earth Command. 10 minutes later, Frank stood alone in his private quarters speaking to the small group of people who really ran Earth's military. Not the politicians or the public figures, but the ones who worked in the shadows. They underestimate us, he told them. Completely. General Patricia Morgan nodded on the screen. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp. That's good, Frank. Let them. They're placing an outpost in our system, Frank said, to watch us. Even better, said Patricia. It will make our next move easier. Should we tell the Zeraxians about Program Phoenix? Frank asked. Patricia's face hardened. Absolutely not. As far as the Concord knows, those ships don't exist. The fleet they saw today is all humanity has. Old, simple, primitive vessels that pose no threat. Frank smiled for the first time that day. And when they see what we really have? Then, Patricia said, they'll stop laughing. Maintain the deception, Admiral. The future of Earth may depend on it. As Frank ended the call, he thought about the ships hidden throughout the solar system. Ships that used technology Earth had been developing in secret for decades. Ships that would make the Zeraxians' bell laughter stop very quickly. Let them think humans were primitive. Let them think Earth needed protection. They would learn the truth soon enough. 6 months had passed since the Zeraxians first visited Earth. The small Concord outpost now orbited Jupiter, a gleaming structure that looked like a flower made of crystal and metal. Inside this outpost, Alan Russell worked as Earth's main diplomat to the Alien Alliance. Alan was having a normal day when the alarms started. They weren't like Earth alarms. Instead of a harsh noise, the Concord alarms felt like a buzzing under the skin. Alan jumped up from his desk and rushed to the main control room. The room was filled with aliens from 5 different species, all moving quickly. In the center, a large display showed the outer edge of the solar system. Many red dots were moving toward Earth. What's happening? Alan asked Nixtara, the blue-skinned Phalian who had become his friend over the past months. Nixtara's skin pulsed with dark patches, which Alan had learned meant she was afraid. The Vraxan Empire has entered your system, she said. Over 200 warships. Alan felt cold all over. During his training, he had learned about the Vraxan. They were a warrior race that had been fighting a cold war with the Conquered for centuries. They conquered weaker worlds and stripped them of resources. Why are they coming here? Alan asked, though he already knew the answer. Earth is new to the Conquered. Your technology is basic. You're an easy target. Nixtara put a 4-fingered hand on Alan's shoulder. We've called for help. A Conquered defense fleet is coming. When will they get here? 3 days, she said quietly. Alan looked at the display again. At their current speed, the Vraxan ships would reach Mars in less than 2 days. Earth itself would be next. We need to warn our people, Alan said. Get our ships ready. Nixtara's skin darkened even more. Alan, you must understand. Your ships cannot fight the Vraxan. Their smallest scout vessel has weapons that could destroy your largest warship in seconds. We can't just do nothing, Alan said. There are colonies on Mars, mining stations near Jupiter, thousands of people. Evacuate who you can, Nixtara advised. The Concord will try to negotiate. Maybe the Vraxan will accept a resource payment instead of taking your worlds. Alan's hands curled into fists. Earth doesn't pay bullies, and we don't give up our people. He left the control room and went to the Earth communication station. He needed to talk to Earth Command right away. As he walked, he passed two Xeraxian officials speaking in their own language. Their translator boxes were turned off, but Alan had been secretly learning their language. He caught fragments of their conversation. Primitive ships will be destroyed. Unfortunate, but they are simply too undeveloped. Perhaps in a few centuries they might have been useful. Allies. They were already talking about Earth in the past tense. Alan sent an urgent message to Earth Command, marking it with the highest priority code. Then he waited, staring at the display showing the approaching Vraxan fleet. He had never felt so helpless. Deep beneath the Arizona desert, Dr. Susan Miller was working late in her lab when the alert came through. Unlike the public Earth Command that everyone knew about, Susan worked for a different group, one that had existed in secret for over 70 years. Susan read the alert about the Vraxan fleet, then picked up a special phone that connected to only one place. When it was answered, she spoke just 5 words. "It's time to wake them." The voice on the other end was silent for a moment. Then, "Are you certain? Once we activate, there's no going back. 200 Vraxan warships are heading toward Earth," Susan said. "The Conquered can't help us for 3 days. We're out of options." "Very well," the voice said. "Program Phoenix is authorized, full activation." Susan hung up and turned to her computer. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, entering a complex series of codes. On her screen, a simple message appeared. Phoenix rising, all across the solar system. Hidden things began to power up. On Pluto's largest moon, inside a secret base buried beneath the frozen surface, General Patricia Morgan watched as her officers prepared for war. She had spent her entire career preparing for this day, the day when Earth would face its first real threat from the stars. "Status report," she called. A young officer named Dave Simmons looked up from his station. "All ships reporting in. Power systems at 100%. Weapon systems online. Stealth fields holding." Patricia nodded. "Send the call. I want every Phoenix captain in the briefing room in 1 hour." 3 hours later, Dave found himself sitting in a large room with 300 other officers. Most of them, like him, had been training in secret for years. They had never served on Earth's public fleet, the ships that the Conquered and now the Vraxan knew about. Instead, they had trained on vessels that officially didn't exist. General Morgan stood before them, her gray hair pulled back tightly, her uniform perfect. Though she was over 60, she stood straight and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "the day we've prepared for has arrived. An alien force is approaching Earth, intending to conquer or destroy us." She touched a control, and a large display showed the solar system, with the red dots of the Vraxan fleet moving steadily inward. "The Concord thinks we're helpless," she continued. "The Vraxan think we're easy prey. They've all seen our public fleet, 60 ships with basic technology." She smiled tightly. "What they haven't seen is you." She touched the control again. Now green dots appeared all over the display, hundreds of them hidden near moons, asteroids, and in the shadow of planets. For 70 years, since we first detected radio signals from other stars, Earth has been preparing. While we showed the world one face of our technology, we developed another in secret, and now those preparations will save us. Dave felt pride swell in his chest. He had often questioned the need for such secrecy, even from their own people. Now he understood. "You will be assigned to your ships immediately," Patricia said. "The Vraxan must not know we're here until it's too late. Hide in the shadows of moons and asteroids, let them pass by. Then when they reach Mars and begin their attack, we strike." As the meeting ended, Dave found himself assigned as captain of a vessel called the Defiance. It wasn't like any ship in Earth's public fleet. It was darker, sleeker, and packed with technology that most humans didn't even know existed. As Dave walked toward his new command, he passed Dr. Susan Miller. She was speaking to a group of officers about the Defiance's main weapons. "Remember," she was saying, "the gravity lens can catch energy weapons and redirect them. The temporal displacement shells can protect you from most physical attacks. But they drain power quickly, so use them wisely. Dave felt a mix of excitement and fear. The technology she was describing sounded like magic compared to what the Conquered had seen of Earth's capabilities. The deception was about to end, and the Vraxen were about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating humans. The Vraxen fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their ships were unlike anything humans had built before. They looked like dark metal spikes with glowing red lines running along their sides. The biggest ship was at the center of the fleet. It was 10 times larger than the others and shaped like a pointed hammer. This was the command ship where Supreme Commander Krall watched the progress of his invasion. Krall was tall even for a Vraxen. His skin was dark gray with red markings showing his high rank. Like all Vraxens, he had 4 arms and a face that looked somewhat like a human skull. His red eyes glowed as he studied the display of the human solar system. "How long until we reach the human colony on the red planet?" he asked. His second-in-command, a Vraxen named Zark, checked the data. 20 hours, Supreme Commander. Our scouts report minimal defenses, just 10 of their primitive ships guarding the planet. Krall made a clicking sound that showed his satisfaction. The information from our spies in the Conquered was correct. The humans are weak, their technology is thousands of years behind ours. "Should we destroy their ships or capture them?" Zark asked. "Destroy them," Krall said. "They have no value, but take any human prisoners. They can work in our mines until they die." On his new ship, the Defiance, Captain Dave Simmons sat in the command chair and studied his crew. They were young like him, but they had all been training for years for this moment. None of them had ever served on Earth's public ships. They had only ever worked with the secret fleet. "Are you nervous, Captain?" asked his first officer, a woman named Kate Bell. Dave nodded. "A little. We've never faced a real enemy before. Only simulations." Kate smiled slightly. The simulations were based on real alien technology. General Morgan made sure of that. Dave was about to ask how the general had gotten information about alien weapons when an alert sounded. A message was coming in from General Morgan herself. Her face appeared on the main screen. "All Phoenix ships, this is General Morgan. The Vraxen fleet has passed Neptune's orbit. They will reach Mars in 20 hours. Remember your training and your mission. Let them pass by you. Do not engage until the signal is given. Earth is counting on you, though most of our people don't even know you exist." As the general's face disappeared, Dave felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. The Defiance was hiding in the shadow of Pluto's moon Charon, along with 20 other Phoenix ships. Similar groups were hidden all across the solar system, near Jupiter's moons, in Saturn's rings, and behind Earth's moon. "Run a final systems check," Dave ordered. "I want to be sure everything is working perfectly when the time comes." His chief engineer, a man named Greg Foster, began checking all the ship's systems. The Defiance had technology that would shock the Conquered aliens who had laughed at Earth's public fleet. The ship had a special hull that absorbed light instead of reflecting it, making it nearly invisible to normal sensors. It had gravity weapons that could bend space itself. It had defensive shields that could move the ship slightly out of normal time, letting energy weapons pass through harmlessly. Greg looked up from his station. "All systems green, Captain. This ship is ready for war." Dave nodded. "Then we wait for the signal." In the Conquered outpost near Jupiter, Alan Russell watched with growing worry as the Vraxen fleet moved closer to Mars. Earth had managed to evacuate some of the colonists, but thousands were still on the Red Planet. The small fleet of 10 Earth ships moved to defend the main colony, even though they had no real chance against the Vraxen. "They'll be destroyed," Alan said quietly. Beside him, Nixtara's skin pulsed with dark patches of worry. "I'm sorry, Alan. When the Concord fleet arrives, we will try to save any survivors." A Zeraxian official named Trelek joined them. "It is unfortunate," he said, his crystal body reflecting the light from the displays. "But perhaps this will be a valuable lesson for your species. You were not ready to join the galactic community. After this, the survivors will understand the need for proper protection." Alan wanted to punch the alien, but he kept his face calm. We've faced threats before, he said. Humans are good at surviving. Trelloc made the bell-like sound that was Xeraxian laughter. Not this time, I fear. The Vraxan Empire has conquered species far more advanced than humans. Your simple ships and weapons won't even slow them down. Back on Earth in the underground control center of Program Phoenix, Dr. Susan Miller and Admiral Frank Carter watched the approach of the Vraxan fleet. Frank had been called back from the Endeavor as soon as the alien threat was detected. Are our ships in position? Frank asked. Susan nodded. All 300 Phoenix vessels are hidden and waiting. The Vraxan have no idea they exist. Frank studied the large display showing the positions of both the Vraxan fleet and the hidden Phoenix ships. General Morgan has positioned them perfectly. The Vraxan will be surrounded once they reach Mars. Will it be enough? Susan asked. Even with our advanced technology, they outnumber us. Frank's face was grim. It has to be enough, otherwise Earth falls. On Mars, the small human defense fleet prepared for battle. The 10 ships were from Earth's public fleet, the only ships the Concorde and the Vraxan knew about. Their captains knew they had little chance against the alien invaders. But they had their orders: fight long enough to draw the Vraxan into a trap. The first Vraxan ships appeared near Mars, their dark shapes blocking out the stars. The human defenders launched a wave of missiles, knowing they probably wouldn't even reach their targets. Supreme Commander Krall watched with amusement as the human weapons approached his fleet. Primitive ballistic weapons, he said with disgust. They're firing actual physical projectiles at us. The missiles exploded harmlessly against the Vraxan shields. Then the alien ships fired back. Beams of red energy lashed out, cutting through 2 of the human ships like they were made of paper. Too easy, Krall said. Destroy them all, then begin landing troops on the red planet. The Vraxan ships surged forward, weapons firing. The human ships tried to dodge, but they were too slow. One by one, they were hit and destroyed or disabled. In the shadows of Mars' 2 small moons, Captain Dave Simmons and the crew of the Defiance watched the one-sided battle. It was hard to stay hidden while their fellow humans were being killed, but they had their orders. Steady, Dave said as his crew grew tense. Wait for the signal. After what seemed like hours but was really only minutes, the signal came. It was simple. A single word sent on a special frequency that only Phoenix ships could receive. Rise. Dave took a deep breath. All ships, disengage stealth systems, power up weapons. The Vraxan are about to learn why you should never underestimate humans. All across the solar system, in places where the sensors of the Vraxan fleet had seen nothing, ships began to appear. Near Jupiter, behind Saturn's rings, in the asteroid belt, and from the shadows of Mars's moons, hundreds of human vessels revealed themselves. They didn't look like the ships of Earth's public fleet. These were darker, sleeker, and far more dangerous, and they had the Vraxan fleet surrounded. The trap was set. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Supreme Commander Krall was celebrating too early. His fleet had just destroyed 7 of the 10 human ships defending Mars. The remaining 3 were damaged and trying to escape. The battle had been even easier than he expected. Begin landing. Troops on the red planet, Krall ordered. I want the human colony under our control by Supreme Commander, his sensor officer interrupted, his voice high with alarm. New contacts appearing. Everywhere. Krall spun to look at the main display. Where moments before there had been empty space, now hundreds of ships appeared. Human ships, but nothing like the primitive vessels they had just destroyed. These were darker, sleeker, and they were surrounding the Vraxan fleet. Impossible, Krall whispered. Where did they come from? Why didn't our sensors detect them? Their hulls absorbed scanner waves, the sensor officer reported. They were hiding in plain sight. Krall's red eyes narrowed. A trap. The humans lured us in with those weak ships. He slammed all 4 of his hands on the command console. All ships, battle formation, destroy these new vessels. On board the Defiance, Captain Dave Simmons watched as the Vraxan fleet scrambled to respond to the sudden appearance of Earth's hidden ships. They're confused, Dave said with a small smile. Good. All ships execute Battle Plan Echo. Target their command vessels first. The Phoenix fleet moved with perfect coordination. Unlike Earth's public ships, these vessels could maneuver quickly, almost seeming to slide through space. They had been training for this moment for years. A Vraxan cruiser fired the first shot, a beam of red energy that shot toward one of the Phoenix ships called the Guardian. In the past, such a weapon would have sliced through a human vessel with ease. But the Guardian didn't try to dodge. Instead, a shimmering field appeared around it. When the energy beam hit this field, something strange happened. The beam seemed to bend, curve around, and then shoot back toward the Vraxan ship that had fired it, now twice as powerful. Direct hit, Kate Bell reported. Their own weapon turned against them, Dave nodded. That's the gravity lens working perfectly. Let's see what else our ships can do. All across the battle zone, the Phoenix fleet was revealing technology that shocked the Vraxan. Some human ships seemed to flicker in and out of reality as they activated temporal displacement shields, causing enemy weapons to pass through them, harmlessly. Others fired weapons that the Vraxan had never seen before, beams that didn't destroy their targets but seemed to take them apart piece by piece at the molecular level. On his command ship, Krall watched in growing horror as 3 of his best cruisers were disassembled before his eyes, their very atoms pulled apart and absorbed by the human vessels. "What is this technology?" he demanded. "The Conquered said humans were primitive. They said they used chemical weapons and basic metal hulls." His weapons officer looked up, his gray face pale with fear. "Supreme Commander, these weapons, some of them are beyond even our understanding. The humans are using gravity manipulation and temporal physics that our scientists have only theorized about." In the Jupiter sector, a squadron of Phoenix ships led by Commander Holly Bennett deployed. Another surprise. As 6 Vraxan destroyers closed in, the human ships released small devices that floated toward the enemy vessels. "Molecular disassemblers away," Holly reported to General Morgan. "Let's see how they like our most advanced tech." The small devices attached themselves to the hulls of the Vraxan ships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first but quickly picking up speed, the alien vessels began to come apart, not with explosions or fire but piece by piece, as if someone was carefully taking apart a model ship. Within minutes, the Vraxan destroyers were reduced to their component parts, floating clouds of material that the Phoenix ships simply absorbed as they passed through. In the Conquered outpost near Jupiter, Alan Russell and the alien representatives watched the battle in stunned silence. The display showed human ships using technologies that the aliens had thought were centuries beyond Earth's capability. "This is impossible," Trelek the Zeraxian said, his crystal body vibrating with shock. "These are not the same ships we inspected. This is not the same technology." Nixtara turned to Alan, her blue skin pulsing with questions. "You knew about this," she said. "It wasn't a question." Alan nodded slowly. "Some of us did, not many. Earth has always kept its best advantages hidden." "But why?" she asked. "Why pretend to be less advanced than you are?" "Because," Alan said, looking directly at Trelak, "when you think someone is harmless, you tell them things you shouldn't. You underestimate them. You make mistakes." Back in the main battle, Dave Simmons and the Defiance engaged directly with a Vraxan battleship. The enemy vessel was 5 times larger than the Defiance, but Dave wasn't worried. "Activate the molecular mirror," he ordered. Greg Foster, his chief engineer, worked quickly at his station. "Mirror active, Captain." A strange field surrounded the Defiance. When the Vraxan ship fired its main weapon, a massive beam of destructive energy, the beam hit the field and seemed to vanish. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the Defiance fired back, using the exact same type of beam the Vraxan had just used. "How is this possible?" the Vraxan captain demanded as his own weapon type was used against him. "They're copying our technology instantly." The battle raged across the solar system. The Phoenix fleet, though outnumbered, had the advantage of surprise and superior technology. They moved like dancers through space, their formations perfect, their attacks coordinated. The Vraxan, used to easy victories against less advanced species, found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Supreme Commander Krall watched as ship after ship in his once proud fleet was destroyed or disabled. "Pull back," he finally ordered. "Regroup at the edge of this system. We need to rethink our strategy." As the surviving Vraxan ships began to retreat, Dave received new orders from General Morgan. "Don't let them escape. We can't allow them to report what they've seen here." "Understood," Dave replied. "All ships pursuit course. Don't let them leave the solar system." The Phoenix fleet gave chase, their engines pushing them to speeds the Vraxan hadn't thought possible for human ships. They caught up to the retreating aliens near Neptune's orbit. What followed wasn't really a battle. It was more like a hunt. The Phoenix ships surrounded the remaining Vraxan vessels, cutting off their escape routes. One by one, the alien ships were captured or destroyed. Only Krall's command ship with its stronger engines managed to break away from the human fleet. As it accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, Krall had one last communication with Earth. "This isn't over," he sent on all frequencies. "The Vraxan Empire will return in force. Next time, we'll be ready for your tricks." The message was received by the Defiance. Dave looked at his communications officer. "Can we catch them?" "Not before they reach open space," the officer replied. "They're too fast." Dave thought for a moment, then smiled. "We don't need to catch them. Send this message to General Morgan. Request permission to use the long reach." The reply came back almost instantly. "Permission granted." Dave turned to Greg Foster. "Prepare the long reach device. Let's show the Vraxan one last surprise." Greg's eyes widened. "Are you sure, Captain? We've never used it outside of tests." "There's a first time for everything," Dave said. "Target their command ship and fire when ready." A panel opened on the front of the Defiance, revealing a weapon unlike any other. It didn't fire a beam or a projectile. Instead, it created a small, contained wormhole that stretched across space. One end formed in front of the Defiance. The other end opened directly inside the engine room of Krall's fleeing command ship. The Vraxan ship suddenly stopped, its engines disabled by a weapon that had reached across millions of miles instantaneously. Before Krall could understand what had happened, the Defiance was there, facing his helpless vessel. "Supreme Commander," Dave said over an open channel. "Your ship is disabled. Your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now." On his damaged ship, Supreme, Commander Krall looked at the human vessel on his view screen. His empire had conquered dozens of worlds. His fleet had been feared across 3 sectors of the galaxy, and now he had been defeated by a species that everyone had thought was primitive. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and respect. "We're humans," Dave replied simply. "And you should have done your homework before you attacked us." 3 days after the battle, the Concord Defense Fleet finally arrived. They were too late to help, but just in time to witness the aftermath. Their sensors showed the remains of Vraxan ships scattered across the solar system. Of the 200 warships that had entered Earth's system, only 23 remained, and these had all been captured by the humans. The Concord Fleet commander, an alien called High Marshal Vornak, could hardly believe what he was seeing. His own fleet of 150 ships had been prepared for a rescue mission. Instead, they found humans celebrating a victory. Alan Russell met the Concord representatives on board the Phoenix Fleet's command ship, the Horizon. With him were Admiral Frank Carter, General Patricia Morgan, and Captain Dave Simmons, now a hero for his capture of the Vraxan commander's ship. High Marshal Vornak, a tall being with golden scales and 6 eyes, looked around the human ship with open amazement. "This vessel, this technology, where did it come from?" Frank smiled. "We built it, Marshal, every piece of it." "But this is impossible," said Ambassador Vexler, who had come with the conquered fleet. His crystal body shimmered with confusion. "The ships we inspected 6 months ago were nothing like this. They were primitive, using ballistic weapons and chemical propellants." "Those ships were real," General Morgan said, "but they weren't our only ships or our best ones." In the main meeting room of the Horizon, the humans and aliens gathered around. A large table. The walls were transparent, showing the stars outside and the other ships of the Phoenix fleet. Among them floated the captured Vraxan vessels, now under human control. For over 70 years, General Morgan explained, Earth has been developing technologies in secret. We showed the world, and then the galaxy, only what we wanted them to see. The Phoenix program created ships and weapons that we kept hidden, waiting for the day we might need them. But why the deception? Asked Vornak. Why pretend to be less advanced than you are? Alan leaned forward. In human history, whenever a more advanced civilization met a less advanced one, the results were usually bad for the less advanced group. When we detected signals from space decades ago, we decided to be cautious. We prepared for the worst, while hoping for the best, Frank added. Vexiller's crystal body made the bell-like sound of Xeraxian laughter, but it wasn't mocking this time. You deceived us completely. When we saw your public fleet, we thought you were thousands of years behind us technologically. That was the idea, Dave said with a small smile. On the other side of the solar system, Dr. Susan Miller walked through the captured Vraxan command ship with a team of scientists. They examined the alien technology with great interest, taking notes and samples. Though the Vraxan were more advanced than Earth's public technology, many of their systems were actually less sophisticated than what the Phoenix program had developed. Susan picked up a Vraxan energy weapon and studied it. Their approach is brute force, she said to her team. They focus on power rather than efficiency. We can learn from this, but in many ways our solutions are better. Back in the meeting room on the horizon, the discussion had turned to Earth's future in the Galactic Concord. Clearly, your status needs to be reconsidered, High Marshal Vornak said. You can no longer be classified as a protected species. We never needed that classification, General Morgan said firmly. Vornak nodded. Indeed. In fact, given what we've seen of your fleet's capabilities, Earth would qualify as a Class 3 civilization, entitled to full voting rights in the Concord Council. Frank and Patricia exchanged a look. This was better than they had hoped for. However, Ambassador Vexiller added, his tone growing serious. There is the matter of your deception. The Concord Charter requires transparency among members. We were not members when we built these ships, Alan pointed out. And even after joining, we never lied. We simply didn't volunteer information about our full capabilities. A distinction that many in the Concord will debate, Vornak said. But given your impressive defense against the Vraxan, an enemy that has troubled the Concord for centuries, I believe exceptions can be made. The meeting continued for hours as they discussed the details of Earth's new role in the Concord. When it was over, Frank and Patricia walked together through the corridors of the horizon. 70 years of secrecy, Frank said quietly. Generations of scientists and soldiers working in the shadows. Was it worth it? Patricia looked out a viewport at Earth, beautiful and blue in the distance. We're still here, aren't we? Still free. I'd say it was worth it. In a secure holding area on the Yao. Horizon, Supreme Commander Krall sat in a cell, guarded by both human and Concord security forces. Alan Russell entered, accompanied by Dave Simmons. Krall looked up at them, his red eyes glowing with hatred. You tricked us, he said. You showed the galaxy weak ships while hiding your true strength. Yes, Alan said simply. That's what humans do when we're threatened. We adapt, we prepare, we survive. The Vraxan Empire will not forget this defeat, Krall warned. Dave stepped forward. And we won't forget your attack. Tell your empire what you saw here. Tell them about our ships that appeared from nowhere. Tell them about our weapons that turned your own energy against you. Tell them about the humans who defeated your fleet using technology you didn't even know existed. Krall was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, How? How did your species develop such technology in secret? Even from the Concord? Alan smiled. Humans have always been good at keeping secrets. And we've always been good at preparing for the worst. 1 week later, Earth was formally reclassified in the Concord records. No longer a protected species, humans were now recognized as a Class 3 civilization with full rights and responsibilities. The Phoenix fleet was officially registered with the Concord, though General Morgan admitted they hadn't revealed all their ships or technology yet. Old habits died hard. In the Concord outpost near Jupiter, Alan Russell stood with Nix Tara, watching, as Earth ships, both the public fleet and the Phoenix vessels, conducted joint exercises with Concord vessels. "Your people are full of surprises," Nix Tara said, her blue skin pulsing with friendly patterns. "We try," Alan replied with a smile. "One thing still puzzles me," she said. "Why do you call it the Ancient Fleet? These ships are new, not old," Neg laughed. "The name wasn't our idea. It was Ambassador Vexillor who first called it that, when he was trying to understand how we had built such advanced technology without the Concord noticing. He said it must have been an ancient fleet that had been hidden for generations. We liked the name," he continued. "It fits in a way, not because the ships are old, but because the human qualities that built them are ancient: caution, preparation, innovation, and a healthy distrust of strangers until they prove themselves friendly." On Earth, in cities around the globe, people looked up at the night sky with new understanding. The stars were no longer just distant lights. They were places filled with other beings, some friendly, some not. But whatever waited out there, Earth was ready. In her underground lab in Arizona, Dr. Susan Miller looked at the designs for the next generation of Phoenix ships. They incorporated some of what they had learned from the Vraxin technology, but most of it was purely human innovation. "Begin construction," she said to her team, "and this time, we don't need to hide them." Out beyond the orbit of Neptune, the Defiance patrolled the edge of the solar system. On the bridge, Captain Dave Simmons looked at the stars and smiled. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never underestimate humans. It was a lesson that would not be forgotten.